It's the thing, I've stuck these things in my mouth for so many years, and every chance you get, I mean, you got to take these in your mouth, and that's where you learn the most. Is you learn it from yourself. You pick it up. You're always, I mean, since I was 14 years old, I've been chasing turkeys. And my mom would threaten me with my life with these things because they about killed her. I mean, it's kind of funny because you always, when you get in your truck, I'd always have a mouth call in there. So you would blow on it. And when you get home, you had a mouth call, and then your mom would start yelling at you. I think it's progressed to my wife too. So mouth calls is my favorite thing to use. They've got, you can go any kind of sound you want. They are very versatile. You can use them, your hands free. Like I said, they can go as soft as you want, raspy as you want. You can do tree calls, you can do cuts, you can do purrs. You can go in the fall hunting, you can do the kiki runs. This is my go-to call. But like I said, I've perfected it. I wouldn't call it perfected, but this is what I use most of the time. So I'm just going to show you a couple different sounds they usually make. Start out with the very basics. We're just going to do a cluck. That's a very basic cluck. What they're doing is they're really content and just kind of feeding along or scratching. That's a very basic cluck. You can also do that in a very softer version for like a tree call, just to. Another thing, this next one is a yelp. You can go early in the morning. I like to try to keep it low key. Even when I first start calling in the middle of the day, I try to keep it low key. You can always work yourself up. You can't never tell how close that gobbler is going to be. So here's a yelp. You can also get it a little higher. Yelp's very basic. You can make them shorter, you can make them longer. What I try to do, if I've got a longbeard that's hung up with a bunch of hens, I just try to mimic that hen. Just try to follow her word for word. Next thing is purring. Purring is very content. It's kind of it brings in the turkeys as they're trying to close in. If you get one that's hung up, I really rely on purring and clucking. So this is a purr. I usually throw in a cluck right after a purr. Just kind of, like, it's a hen that's feeding along, content. Just it brings the gobblers in the most of the way. I mean, safe is what they're thinking. So the next thing is a cut. This is mid-morning, midday. You can get one really excited like this. That's one you've got to check the gobbler's temperature. You kind of learn it. It's over time. You got to figure out what they're feeling. You know, if they're gobbling really hard at you, I hammer down on them. If they're just moseying along, you've got to take a turkey easy. You just play it by each different bird. I've got a couple of this is a kiki. I do throw it in the springtime as well. A lot of people won't. I feel like it's done some good for me. Kiki's just a that'll help. I mean, if you get some ones that are hung up, you start trying different things. That's a very key to that. I mean, one other thing that we do is a whine. This is it'll actually tear your gobblers up. It's right before they're getting ready to get mated, right before they're getting ready to get bred. they'll do that noise when they get on top of them. It's kind of like a little squeal. So it'll really finish them. That's the finishing touch is what I usually put it on. You get them in there close and they're hung up and you want to finish them off. It's a good call to usually go at. A slate, which I prefer slate over glass. This got a better sound to me. You can get more raspier on a glass. This is one of the ones that's kind of easier to get and perfect. You can do very basic sounds to kill a turkey. Basically a cluck on a slate, you take your striker and you simply push against it like you're about ready to draw and just barely go down. Just short clucks. As basic as it gets. For a purr, all you gotta do is take that tip and drag it. A yelp is basically just doing circles. You take the tip of that striker and just put it at a little angle. You can get different sounds on the slate at about any kind of different place. You can go you can hear one's a different higher pitch and one's a lower. You can also take that cluck you learned earlier. You can also go to a cut. It's just faster. That's my basics on the slate call. They come in real handy if the gobblers are a long ways away. Another thing we usually do is if we get one that's got a lot of hens and I want to try to get him fired up, I'll go back and forth with my mouth call and my slate call. So that works good a lot of times. Gobble call is kind of a last resort call. This is one of the last ones I use in my, I kind of got a strategy for every longbeard I go across. I'll start with trying to get the longbeard in just by hand calls at first. If that don't work, if he's not responding to no hens, this is my next thing. You got to try to make him jealous then, especially if he's henned up. One way I do it is just gobbling at him. It's going to scare a lot of them away, but if he's a bigger, older bird, you're going to kill him with one of these. I wouldn't recommend doing it on public ground, but on private ground, this is definitely a good call to go to. You simply cup your hand and just and you cup it off at the end. It kind of sounds like a real good gobble. I mean, it sounds more like a jake to me, but they get the point and it comes across and it'll make a gobbler really mad. That's one of the things that I really like to use. Owl call, this is a good early morning, even late in the afternoon if you're trying to roost a turkey. Just it's who cooked for you? Who cooked for you all? Is what you're saying in this. You're just blowing and saying it. You can get fancier. You can start making it do squalls and all kinds of stuff. It's early in the morning. This is probably your go-to to get a turkey to locate. As soon as it starts breaking a little daylight, they'll start hammering. Just. Coyote calls. You can also take a diaphragm. Late in the evenings, if you're trying to roost a turkey for the next morning, as soon as they fly up on the limb, you can hit them with that owl call. Or you can take a diaphragm and just actually sound like a coyote. It's just boof, boof, woo-woo. So. That works really well late in the evenings. One thing I use during the middle of the day, I just learned to do it with my mouth. I don't carry a crow call anymore. We got crows flying over us right now. But crow call, mid-morning, middle of the day, they start hammering to it. It grabs their attention. The louder the better. The more obnoxious the better. It's just something to get a shock gobble out of a turkey. So I just say, caw, caw, caw. That simply will get a turkey to shock gobble to you. I mean, you kind of get used to it. I used to use the call all the time, but I figured out the louder the better. It'll really make a turkey shock gobble. Some of the best tips I can give you, don't overcall. Overcalling you won't kill a lot of turkeys overcalling a lot of times. You have to check a turkey's temperature to see what he's feeling that day. If he's gobbling his head off, you can get away with overcalling. But if he's just gobbling every once in a while, I'll do more clucks, purrs, and I'll rake the leaves a lot. I take I've got a primo swing, and I literally rake the leaves beside me, and it sounds like a turkey scratching. That will draw a turkey all the way in most of the time. Another good tip is a turkey will always want to come up a hill and not down a hill. So if you're calling and you got a turkey at the bottom of the hill, try to get above him. I've had that work a million different times. Another one thing that it will be a huge thing actually. If you got a ditch or something, or a fence, or a road, anything like that, obstruction, you've got to try to get as close to that as you can, because them turkeys most of the time will not cross them obstructions. Get as close as you can to them, or get on the other side. Don't let a fence get in between you if you can. So this is the stuff that's kind of helped me along. Happy hunting, good luck this year. Hope you all get a big long beard.